Freestyle, something every creative can relate to.
When I made Blueprint, the album,
Yeah.
I did 9 songs in 2 days. It was pretty much the record, like just done. It was done.
That's really crazy.
I guess that's how I call it. In spurts, like I just get spurts, like real creative, and I just call.
At some point, you've probably been in a situation where an idea pops into your head and you just want to start going. You immediately have a sense of what you want to do. You understand the central idea, and maybe you've even figured out how to lay the foundation, but you don't know where the idea is going. You don't know how it ends, and you probably don't know if you will even complete it. But the idea is real. It's cool, and you feel the urge to get going as soon as possible. That's freestyle art. And if you're an observer, you can always feel the spontaneity behind such art. But I've always wondered if this kind of creative process can be used in creating TV series. The TV world is a place where things can quickly go south. One moment you're like, this can go down as one of the greatest shows ever. And 5 episodes later, it's like, oh, what a shame, they lost it. A good example of this tragedy is Westworld, a show created by Jonathan Nolan. Now, imagine having to freestyle a TV series, something that is already so complicated and so difficult to make. Well, there's a show that actually did that. Did it so well, in a way that's so intriguing, that my lazy ass had no choice but to make this video.
Never find us. But victim or perpetrator, if your number's up, we'll find you.
Person of Interest at its core paints a picture of a dystopian United States where everyone's under surveillance by an AI machine. The machine was built by this computer genius after 9/11 to help the government in its fight against terrorism. This machine has the capability to prevent all forms of premeditated murder. It can accurately generate the social security number of the main suspect in a potential homicide. It can actually prevent the murder. Nor can it tell you if the suspect to be the victim or perpetrator. But the numbers are never wrong. Sounds like a good thing, right? Yeah, but there's a catch.
But there was a problem with this machine. I had built it to prevent the next 9/11, but it was seeing all sorts of crimes. So I had to teach the machine to divide the things it saw into 2 lists, relevant and irrelevant.
Relevant numbers are numbers relating to acts of terrorism. They go to the government. But the relevant numbers get it after 24 hours, along with everything else the machine generates. That's how the machine was programmed, so nobody gets to save those people. And this was how the show started. Because of the guilt that accompanied the knowledge that they built something that deems some people irrelevant, and those people just get to die, they did something risky. And by they, I meant the guy who built it and his friend who contributed to the process. But for now, let's consider the friend irrelevant. So, what did they do? Before they handed the machine to the government, they built a backdoor that allowed them to access the relevant numbers. So as the government was trying to prevent the country from another terrorist attack using the relevant numbers generated by the machine, the guy who built it was trying to prevent as much homicide as he possibly could using the relevant numbers. And he couldn't do it alone. I mean, look at him, he's a nerd. So he had an ex-CIA officer who is presumed dead.
I appreciate the help, counselor. But who's picking up the tab?
Our employer wants to have a word with you.
And that's the foundation of the show, right there. It focuses on the relevant numbers. Every episode, the machine will generate an irrelevant number and they will try to stop a homicide. But what's most interesting about Person of Interest was the evolution. The big deal isn't in the fact that it evolved from this narrow plot where they tried to stop homicide while avoiding being caught by the police and the feds, to this intricate world dominated by 2 artificial intelligences with distinct ethos. That's not the big deal. The big deal is how it evolved.
Receiving the government feeds now, sir.
Then, by all means, let there be life.
I mean, the foundation of the story itself actually left room for a lot of questions. Like, how was the machine built? What happened to everyone involved in the project? What's the story of the guy who built the machine and the presumably dead, highly skilled ex-CIA officer? But there's a spontaneity behind the widening of the plot. It felt like chaos. Like, as a viewer, you could sense that even though they had a story that begged a lot of questions, and answers to those questions can burden the plot. There wasn't a mapped out world from the outset, because the way the plot kept expanding was kind of smooth yet chaotic. Suddenly they would show a flashback, and it's like, okay, cool. And a moment later, there'll be a subplot or scene that renders the flashback as a foreshadowing.
Like my father?
Typically, fiction uses flashback as a way of explaining the present or furthering character building. Like in Better Call Saul, where they will show us glimpses of Jimmy's past as a young adult who creates scams, so that we can understand why Chop distrusts Jimmy and why Jimmy's situation is so dicey. Or in Severance, where they showed how Mark and Gemma fell in love and other elements of the relationship just to explain the present moment. The point is, that's how flashbacks are mostly used. But in Person of Interest, almost every flashback is a foreshadowing. When you get a flashback, you know something is about to happen. And the flashback is a way of legitimizing whatever is about to happen. It's messy, but kind of cool as fuck. It works. And that was just how the plot kept expanding. Sometimes there would be a seemingly surmountable obstacle or something peculiar about one of the people in the homicide they're trying to prevent. And that would just add another layer to the plot.
I thought she'd never shut up.
What's so unique about this show is that I can't remember seeing a show where the bulk of the world building was happening during the writing. Typically, it feels like the world is built first, and then you start writing the story. Sometimes you might need to flesh out the world at some point in the story, but the bulk of it has always been created. In Person of Interest, the bulk of the world building happens spontaneously. It's like, okay, if I'm going to turn this random character into a lethal villain, you have to justify what makes them so lethal. And then they would go on and say, you know what? Let's do a flashback of a moment in their past. Or something like, oh, we've been saying this organization wants to destroy the artificial intelligence. I would never have a reason why they would want to do that. You know what? Let's say there's another machine out there, and blink, you have an intricate plot.
Would you like to know what that question is?
I don't care.
No, you don't, do you? That's why you and I are going to get along.
99 times out of 100, a show that tells a story the way Person of Interest does will be bad TV. 99 times out of 100. But Person of Interest is actually pretty good TV. Despite the storytelling being so circumstantial and the plot being quite repetitive, it's good TV. But there's also one thing I learned from watching Person of Interest. It's that this method isn't viable. Person of Interest did well with creating such an intricate world, and the way the writers were just so efficient at adding layers was pretty impressive. But for a TV to be great, it requires much more than that.
We need a strategy.
For starters, good character development. If you're going to run a series for 5 seasons, you can't freestyle character development. The characters need to grow positively or negatively. They have to influence the narrative and get influenced by the narrative. In Person of Interest, even the best written characters were average at best. At some point in the latter part of the series, it was hard to find a character that was intriguing. What was intriguing was the plot and the chaotic, spontaneous nature in which the show was evolving. No character had depth, no complexity, and besides one or two characters, it felt like the plot could move them in whatever direction they wanted to without creating contradictions or obviously violating any of the characters' attributes. The characters became shallow and sometimes annoying.
CIA.
Are you sure?
I'm staring at my old boss. His name's Beale.
Boss.
You mean he knows you?
He knew me at one time.
We're gonna need you to come with us.
Not until I see some ID. Thanks for grabbing him up.
John, you can't intercede.
The hell I can.
The CIA thinks that John Reese is dead. If Beale sees you, he can marshal all the forces of the agency to hunt you down, and none of us need that.
But maybe this weakness is also an intrinsic part of freestyling a TV series. I mean, if you make characters complex, give them depth and street codes, their actions they start dictating the story, which is probably something you don't want if you're riding on spontaneity. Or maybe it's just an apparent weakness that the writing had, and could actually freestyle a TV series and avoid such weakness. Maybe. But what happens when you start a TV series and get away with it is Person of Interest. You get a fun, dynamic plot that constantly tickles on the edge of bottomless chaos, while having uninspiring characters that are primarily used as tools to aid the dynamism of the plot and prevent it from falling into that bottomless chaos. It's dangerous, but it works.
I know I've made some mistakes. Many mistakes. But we helped some people. Didn't we?
Yes. Yes, we did.
Do I need more TV series to adapt this method? Maybe not. But would I enjoy watching another person of interest? Yeah, definitely. Let me know what you think in the comment section. And don't forget to like and subscribe. This is a new channel that I finally decided to take, seriously. So you should definitely expect more fun content. See you.